Beijing submerged. Dozens dead. Tens of thousands forced out. Relentless rain has crippled China's capital, again. Roads collapsed, villages blacked out, warnings ignored. As Xi urges all-out rescue, critics ask, why weren't we ready? This isn't nature's fury alone. It's a failure to prepare in a warming world. At least 30 people have been killed by severe rainfall and flooding in Beijing as heavy rains drenched the Chinese capital. State media reported on July 29th. The deaths occurred in Beijing's mountainous northern districts, with 28 killed in Miyun and 2 in Yanqing. State news agency Xinhua reported. Torrential rain started over the weekend and intensified around the Chinese capital and surrounding provinces on July 28th, with Beijing recording rainfall of up to 543 millimeters in its northern districts. Authorities in Beijing have relocated more than 80,000 residents from areas worst hit by flooding, which has damaged dozens of roads and cut power to at least 136 villages, the country's national broadcaster CCTV reported. Authorities ordered the release of water from a reservoir in Beijing's rural Miyun district, which was at its highest level since it was built in 1959, according to reports, with locals being warned to stay away from rivers downstream as their levels rose and as more heavy rain is forecast. As per reports published in Associated Press, in the town of Taishitun, about 100 kilometers northeast of central Beijing, streets were covered in mud and water on July 28th, and uprooted trees lay in piles with their bare roots exposed. Earlier on July 28th, reports said the torrential rains and flooding had killed 4 people, with 8 others missing, following a landslide in the country's Hebei province, located south of Beijing.
The flood came rushing in, just like that, so fast and suddenly. In no time at all, the place was filling up.
Residents in Beijing's Miyun district were picking up the pieces on July 29th after torrential rains left a trail of destruction. Warehouses stood gutted, their interiors caked in mud and broken glass, as a forklift hoisted a flood-damaged car from a waterlogged street.
This has never happened before. It's not in all these years. We've never seen rain this heavy. There's nothing we could do. We didn't dare go in. Who would? You go in, it might all come down on you. This part here, luckily, was just beer crates. It was all stacked together, so even though the water hit hard, it didn't get too badly damaged. But still, a bunch of empty crates got washed away. Beer, condiments, drinks. We had 8 barrels in total, only 1 barrel's left. One of those big 1x3 barrels, super heavy. The black tea, green tea, all in big bottles. There were over a dozen crates. Altogether, probably more than 30 got swept away.
Breakfast shop owner Yang Yanlong described similar devastation. He pointed to the high water mark, nearly a meter inside his shop. The water was higher than that wall, he said.
Everything is gone. Everything in the village is gone. No electricity, no water.
Meanwhile, Beijing authorities launched a top-level emergency response on the evening of July 28th, ordering people to stay inside, closing schools, suspending construction work, and stopping outdoor tourism and other activities until the response is lifted. The heaviest rain in Beijing was expected early on July 29th, with rainfall of up to 30 centimeters forecast for some areas. In 2023, Beijing was hit by extreme floods that killed dozens of people and caused 1 million people to be relocated. Much of the damage was in Hebei, which neighbors the capital. The authorities were criticized for building a moat around the capital, which intensified the flooding in Hebei. Human-caused climate breakdown is supercharging extreme weather across the world, driving more frequent and more deadly disasters from heat waves to floods to wildfires. At least a dozen of the most serious events of the last decade would have been all but impossible without human-caused global heating. Chinese President Xi Jinping, on the night of July 28th, urged all-out efforts to ensure the safety of people's lives and property in the fight against floods and geological disasters caused by heavy rainfalls that are currently affecting some parts of China. Xi, also General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, CPC Central Committee, and Chairman of the Central Military Commission, has made important instructions regarding flood control and disaster relief work. All-out search and rescue must be conducted for those missing or trapped, Xi said, stressing that residents in flood-threatened areas must be promptly relocated and resettled to minimize casualties. He also urged authorities to plan for worst-case and extreme scenarios, clarify responsibilities, implement flood control measures meticulously, closely monitor and reinforce vulnerable and critical areas, and allocate rescuers and supplies based on scientific assessment.
Emergency response must be activated and carried out at the earliest possible moment to fully protect people's lives and property.
Recently, continuous heavy rainfalls have occurred in eastern, northern and northeastern regions of China, triggering floods and geological disasters and causing heavy casualties in Beijing, Hebei, Jilin and Shandong. In his instruction, Premier Li Qiang has urged national flood control authorities to help local governments strengthen their response. Li, who is also a member of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee, called for reinforcing extreme weather monitoring, strengthening the inspection and assessment of embankments for rivers and reservoirs, and enhancing the identification of urban waterlogging risks.